note, James O'Neill is not a professional chef and he is not a professional video editor. If you're one of those people who likes to sit around and comment on videos talking about technical errors, please kiss my big white ass.
Alright people, today I'm going to show you how to make a Cubano sandwich from scratch. Kind of, not really, somewhat. First you got to make a marinade, so we got some standard run-of-the-mill natural orange juice, rice vinegar, got fresh squeezed lime juice, smashed garlic, then we got sage, rosemary, thyme. I don't know if I was pointing to the right one. They didn't have fresh oregano, so I got the dry stuff, salt and pepper. Typically you would also put cilantro, maybe some mint in here, but these are household preferences, so we're gonna leave them out. So just add all the ingredients to a bowl of some kind. Again, this is the mojo marinade. Stick that smashed garlic in there, all of it. Now for the herbs, you just use half of what you got, because we're gonna need the rest of that later. So half for the marinade. And put that bastard in there. There we go, shake it up. And then we're gonna add a little salt and pepper. Now you didn't see me add the salt and pepper, but you're gonna have to trust me that it's in there. Just mix this up, give it a good mix. Give it a little taste. Should be like, oh yeah, that's good. Yummy. Now, typically for a Cubano, you want to use, make what's a porchetta, which is the loin of the pork attached to the belly, all rolled up with some seasoning and all that. But grocery stores are pretty barren these days, so I'm going with pork tenderloin. So just stick that in that joker, give it a little bath, let it sit in there. Yeah. So after you give it a bath for a few minutes, typically what I do is I take it, throw it in a Ziploc, get the air out, and just pour the marinade in there. I make what I like to refer to as a meat bag. Got a nice heft to it. So you're just gonna take this, throw it in the fridge for, I don't know, a couple hours, 3 hours, and then move on to the next stage. All right, folks, so now at this point, your meat bag has been marinating for a couple hours. You want to take it out about 30 minutes before you're going to throw it in the oven. So we got the oven preheating to 375, and what we're going to do now is make a bit of a buttery, garlicky rub to go on the pork. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take some cold butter. I'm sorry, softened butter, not cold. Throw it all in there. You get some extra virgin olive oil, add that. The rest of your fresh herbs from earlier. You got the thyme, sage, the rosemary. Go right in there. Add some granulated garlic. Then we have some fresh garlic. Definitely want it to be garlicky. You're gonna take some sea salt. You want a lot of sea salt. Load up. Load up on that salt. You want a nice salty, garlicky crust on this pork tenderloin. So now, we're also gonna add some pepper, but I need 2 hands for that. So now basically what you're gonna do, you're gonna take a masher, something like that, and basically just mash this up until you get a nice consistent butter spread. All right, now remember, I'm not a professional chef. I'm not a professional video editor either, for the record. So I don't know if this is the right dish to use, whatever. I like it, it seems to work well. So we got our oven preheating to 375. We got our butter spread with the garlic and the salt. Now, this should taste salty. It should be salty. And I know you're saying to yourself, well, dear, that's a lot of butter. That's a lot of salt. And you're right. But at the same time, you have to understand that you're not eating this all at once. We're going to eventually slice this very thin. So you're going to have a very small bit of this spread in the surface area of what you're actually eating. So don't go crazy. This is how you cook, okay? Hear my dogs barking in the background. So basically all you're going to do is you're going to take this and spread it over the pork. Get it all over the place. What you're looking for is a nice consistent crust once this is done. It's going to be incredible. So now we got our butter spread on the pork. We're going to take this sucker, throw it right in the oven. Now, I'm expecting this to be about an hour cook time, but really, you know, it all depends. Everybody's oven is calibrated differently, so my guess is about an hour, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, but the important thing is to get a good meat thermometer and make sure it's 145 degrees before you take it out. That'll give you a nice, good temperature on the pork. All right, so at this point, we're about halfway through the cook. And what you want to do, normally you're going to be using 2 hands, just take some of this goodness and just kind of baste the tenderloin a little bit. There you go. All right, so at this point, pull the pork out, just check the temp. We're about 145, 150, maybe a little bit over, but it should be good to go. You see it's nice, got a nice garlicky crustiness happening on top. So you're just gonna let that sit aside for a while, let it cool down. You're gonna wanna give yourself time, maybe an hour, hour and a half before you start slicing. To start building and cooking your sandwiches, you're gonna wanna get yourself set up. You got a nice thick bottom pan here. You want a good thick bottom so it heats up gradually, doesn't get too hot too quick. Some kind of weight to press the sandwich with. You can use a press, you can use a brick wrapped in aluminum foil, you can use a big can of tomatoes, doesn't matter. Then we got our rolls. I usually like Portuguese roll, but they were out, so just a large enough roll to handle the sandwich. Got our sliced pork, a nice boar's head, honey ham, Swiss cheese, pickles. That's the setup. Now normally when I cook, you know, most things, you want a screaming hot pan. In this case, you want the pan to heat up with the sandwich so that everything heats at the same time. You don't get your burnt bread. You want a nice crust on the bread, but you don't want it burnt. We're gonna start going. First, gonna turn the heat on, get the pan going. Turn on pretty low to start. Just get it warmed up. A little olive oil. Get that going. All right, so now we got our rolls. We got them pressed out, cut, ready to build. Authentic Cuban has the Dijon Mustard. My wife's not a big mustard fan, so we go with the butter spread for her. Works just the same. We'll start with the pickles. Three of those bad boys. And we go with cheese, Swiss cheese. A little sliced deli ham. Get that going. And then we got our pork. Just gonna layer that on there. Get a nice good coverage. Just want to kind of press it down. Clean hands, you know, don't want to get the corona. Press it down, another layer of cheese. top on. And again, just keep pressing it down. Kind of prep it. And then repeat the next one. Just gonna get these in the pan. Again, the pan's just warm right now. Move them around a little bit so you get that oil on the bread. That oil is gonna help you make the crust. Let's get this pan going. All right, so remember, you want the bread to get a nice crust on it, but you don't want it to burn. You want it to heat at the same temperature the insides are heating, so you get that cheese melted and everything warm inside. Just keep pressing it as you cook. We'll check back in a few minutes. Flip the sandwiches. You can see that what was the bottom layer of Swiss is starting to melt. And you see you getting that crust. You should almost be able to knock on it. It's so good. So just flip them. Watch the temperature. Make sure it's not getting too hot. Keep pressing the whole time. Just put your weight into it. Get them down there and just let them go. Let that cheese get gooey. You sort of know when they're done by the cheese starts to melt a little bit outside of it. And once the cheese starts caramelizing, browning up in the pan, that's typically when the Cuban is ready. But you want that crust on both sides of the bread. All right, so we got a nice crust on both sides here, nice and flat. So we're gonna take it out, move it to the board, just let it cool for a minute before you cut it. All right, so here you have it, finished product. Cubano pressed rosemary potatoes. Bon appetit. All right, little bonus footage here. Every good sandwich needs good accompaniment. In this case, we're gonna make some oven roasted rosemary potato wedges, kind of like a baked steak fry. So first thing is to just take some Yukon Gold potatoes. That's what I use. You can use whatever. Just let them soak in some water for about a half hour. Cold water gets the starches moving, pulls a little bit of the starch out. Usually it makes it a little bit crispier. So just set those aside and let them sit for about a half hour. Now for the potatoes, we got them drained, put them in a big bowl. Pretty simple stuff here. Just add some olive oil, a little granulated garlic, some rosemary, generous helping. Get some sea salt. Now you don't want to go too overboard on the salt because you can always salt to taste at the end. And then we're going to put some black pepper in when I got a free hand. And then you're just going to arrange them on a baking sheet. I like to use a rack so that they're elevated, get a little air under there, but just mix this up and arrange them on the baking sheet. So now we spread the potatoes out on the baking sheet, got it in the oven at 375, and you really just put it in there till it's done. We mixed them up with the oil mixture. I like them crispy, so probably about 30-45 minutes at this temperature, 375. And then I took some of the oil left over, mixed it with some of the jus from the pork, and we're gonna spread some of that on the potatoes about 10 minutes before it's done. All right, so now I just pulled the potatoes out for a minute. They're about 10 minutes from being done, just starting to crisp up. So you want to take that oil mixture from before that we set aside, the mix of the pork jus and the rosemary oil. Just get a brush or whatever, just put a nice little coat. Hear that sizzle? Yeah, buddy. Put a nice little coat on the potatoes. Then you're gonna stick them back in the oven for the last 10 or so minutes, but this is more a look thing than anything. Pull the potatoes out of the oven, looking delish. The last thing you wanna do is just finish with a little sea salt here. Just get a little sprinkle. Again, you can always salt the taste. If you like them a little less well done, you can always cook at a lower temperature, but I like mine crispy. It's like a baked steak fry. It's really good.